Are we ready? Yeah, that was it. Okay, bye.
If you guys want to start, it's a little
ready for us?
Awesome.
He has the sexy voice. I don't have the sexy voice that he does.
No, you sure do.
So I was telling Alan and I have never actually met in person, but we flew here together. And I was telling him there's a comedy troupe in Los Angeles called the Upright Citizens Brigade, and they do a half-hour musical comedy of the NeverEnding story. But they made Falcor a child molester. So it was like, it's a very adult theme. It's uber creepy, but hysterically funny. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. So that was our first. I was like, yeah. He was like, scratch my ear, lower, right there. I was like, I like little boys. It was so damn funny.
It's interesting because that was my subtext when I was doing the movie.
That's why it came out so sweet and gentle. That's funny.
Wah, 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 wah. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I have to say.
They just want to hear you speak.
I never met this man, as he said, until we flew out here, because he'd already filmed the movie, and then they flew me over to Germany to do the voice of Falcor. So I had to match not only the dialogue but the emotion with what I was getting from this man who was 12 years old at the time, I guess.
Kid, baby.
He was just so beautiful and innocent. Now look at him. Now he's just beautiful and innocent. Anyway, it was, I just love doing it. I'm getting ahead of myself before you even ask questions, but I just love doing it. So I told Noah that I did it the first day, and the director, Wolfgang, said, oh, that's fine, that's good, okay, thank you. I said, we're going to have a playback of this. He said, yeah. So I listened to it, and I said, no, we have to do it again. He said, well, it's 5 o'clock. You can come back tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. So we came in and we did it again, and when I finished, he said, yeah, that's the one. And the difference was, the first day, it was very technical to match. And then I realized that Falcor didn't have any heart, and that's what I put in it the second day. So that's the version you saw. That's the one that counts. That's the one that matters.
I told Alan he was lucky because Wolfgang had me do 40 takes every take. Every time we shot something, it was like 40 takes. Yeah. You're lucky.
Well, the first movie I ever did was with Robert Wise, a movie called Star with Julie Andrews. And the first day was my first scene, and it was my first big scene. So after the fourth take of it, I said, what are you looking for here, Robert? He said, better. Totally understood that. Well, why don't we just get started here? I'm sure you have questions, huh? Yes? Ready? Go ahead. Either one of us.
Okay. First off, I just want to say, like, you guys were my childhood, and I love you both so much.
Cool.
And then second, I have a question. Just kind of, what was your favorite part of filming the movie itself? And I have a follow-up question after that.
Well, for me, I shot for a year. I moved to Germany, to Munich. We shot at the various studios. It took a year to film that damn movie. And I swear they tried to kill me every week. That's what it felt like. They were throwing me off of, out of trees and off of this, but for a 12-year-old kid like I was, it was for the most part, it was playtime. The only thing that really kind of sucked was we spent 2 weeks shooting that damn horse scene. And 2 goddamn weeks, I was miserable and crying and hysterical, and that's a long time to be like that, So we spent 2 months in the swamps.
That's a long time to be in the saddle, Buster.
yeah, it was, yeah, we spent 2 months in the swamps of sadness. So just on the scope of things, I don't think anything had ever been done on that scale at that time. You know, it was a huge undertaking. But yeah, 3 months, they thought it was just going to be a little easy breezy 3-month shoot turned into a year.
Wow. And that scene was amazing. It made me cry when I was 6.
Yeah, I mean, I have people go, oh, I'm going to go show it to my 5-year-old, and I go, wait a couple years, you know? You can thank for therapy at 6. So, I liked all of it. I mean, there was just a lot of, it was a lot of fun. You know, it was like a big playground every day. It was a lot of hard work. I mean, we worked, you know, 12, 14 hours a day. So, worked my ass off, but it was definitely, you know, worth it because 35 years ago, everybody's just still watching it and talking about it, and you know, and it's just, I think it's one of those movies that they're rare, but they stand the test of time. You know,
Oh, it gets better all the time. It gets better.
Yeah.
When you were shooting the exteriors and all that, was that on a set, interior?
No, that was the only stuff that was exterior. We shot in Spain. We shot in Amarillo and Costa del Sol, and that's where Amarillo is where they did all these spaghetti westerns, like all the Sergio Leone movies.
Yeah.
It was hot as hell. Yeah, it was crazy because you know we could only shoot from 5 in the morning to maybe 10 in the morning, and you had to go inside because it was, you know, you have the spots on top of the sun. It would be 125 degrees, 130, whatever, with the light. So you'd have to go shoot for a couple hours in the morning and then shoot a couple hours in the early evening, and that was that.
Well, since you were 12 years old, did you have to go to school at the same time?
Yeah, they weren't happy about that.
I know. Yeah.
But you
I
know,
was a teacher on the set.
yeah, and I went to a private French school, so they had to get a French teacher, so they were even less happy about that, you know, because they expect everybody to be an adult and not have to have school. And
Yeah.
just kind of didn't think about that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kids have to do 3 hours of school until you're 18 or emancipated, so, which is a long day because you have to work with an adult, you know, an adult job, and then you still have 3 hours of school.
Yeah.
So.
Well, is that it?
Oh, there's got to be questions.
I don't know if you guys know, but there's a theme park in Germany that had a NeverEnding Story ride. That was like
For real?
a full-on like
didn't know
animatronic
that.
riverboat ride.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, you didn't know about that. I was gonna ask
I
if
knew
guys,
you could
like,
go
knew
to
about
the
that.
various studios and take like the tour and
Yeah.
go sit on Falcor and whatnot.
Yeah.
We just started looking really old and sad.
Yeah.
Because people would take his scales off and send them to me to sign, and so like every month they'd have to like redo them. So people would send me pictures and he's just balding and. Oh, I swear to God.
This is in a theme park?
No, this was at the studios. They have, but they have an actual.
Yeah.
Do they still have it?
I don't know about that. I know that in Germany there's like some other. This is a completely different thing. You can like take a picture on Falcor.
Right.
And
That's
like,
at the studio.
Yeah, I think that's what. But the other thing was in like a Warner Brothers owned theme park, and it had like a river ride and everything.
Like
You
It's
can
a
find
Small
it on
World,
YouTube.
NeverEnding Story style.
Yeah. But I think it was because of the second movie more, so I didn't know if you guys got involved in that.
No. And the most emphatic no.
They didn't use you for Falcor in the second one, did they?
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't find out about it until it was
Done.
Done.
Me neither. Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yes, actually, I have 2 questions. One for Noah. What was Wolfgang Peterson like to work with as a director? And
Can we answer that part first, and then we go some questions? I'm trying to put this delicately. He was a perfectionist. Yeah, I mean, I think he had a vision of what he wanted to see, and it didn't always match what my character, how I portrayed him was. So we kind of butt heads a little bit here and there, and sometimes that's 40 takes too, because I don't know, I was always told you trust your instincts, and if you don't believe something's supposed to be a certain way as an actor, you give the director what he wants and then you do it your way, you know, and a lot of the time you're right. And so I didn't think he was used to people kind of challenging his authority. He's like, respect my authority. You know, and so yeah, he was like, who's this little fucking 12-year-old telling me, I'm gonna do it this way. But that's kind of how I was at 12 too. You know, and he was just very exacting and precise and very, I don't want to say very German, you know, but he was my way and it's kind of the way it was, so. And he didn't speak much English when we first started, so it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve for both of us because I didn't speak any German, so I had to learn really quick. But yeah, you know, he's done some good movies. Good answer it? Kind of?
Yeah,
Cool.
that did answer, thank you. Cool.
I heard there was going to be a remake. Do you know anything about it or involved at all?
I'm not involved. I know it's
another remake?
yeah. It's
Number 4?
no, a reboot.
No, like the NeverEnding story, like closer to the book.
Right.
Because you know.
It started. Leonardo DiCaprio bought the rights a long time ago, and it was started off him and David Fincher. And the last thing I heard, Guillermo del Toro had bought the rights, and I'd seen some of the characters. They made Falcor look mean and scary as hell, and it's supposed to be a really dark reimagining of it, which is closer to the book because the book's uber dark.
Yeah, right. It's pretty dark and very different
Absolutely,
from the film.
absolutely. I just don't. I don't think that they could have made the book and it had been a kids movie. I don't think, you know what I mean, because it was. Yeah, that's pretty dark and deep. So, but that's from what I understand is Guillermo's working on it, but that might change now too. You know, hopefully he won't fuck. Like, you know,
Hand back there, yes.
Do you think that animatronics are better than CGI in terms of Jackson movies? Because I remember I saw the NeverEnding story when I was in college a couple months ago, and Ramon scared the living crap out of me. He was scarier than the CGI werewolves I've seen. So I think, in my opinion, that's better, but I don't want to stand
just want to know if you thought animatronics were more real feeling or lent to more real feeling than CGI. What your opinion was?
Like you're talking about
Puppeteering.
like rock biter, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do it. When he asked me to do the rock biter, I was surprised because I'd only been signed for Falcor. And I said, well, let me look at it. And then you could do the rock biter as something horrible and scary, but what's the fun in that? It's much more,
He's my favorite.
it's much, yeah, mine too, much sweeter and funnier to, oh, God, oh, I love that. That's much better than, oh, I love that. Humanizing inanimate objects is very satisfying. There's a great actor, voice actor named Frank Welker. I don't know if you've heard of him. Frank is the best at that. You could tell Frank, well, here's a microphone. What would this microphone sound like? He said, well, he would say, well, how old is this microphone? What make is this microphone? What color is this microphone? And he would come up with a voice exactly right for that. So that's the way I thought of Rockbiter. I'm not comparing myself to Welker. I'm just saying that you have to use your imagination and get inside an inanimate object to come up with something that's suitable and has a personality. It isn't just a rock that's chipping away and chewing. It's got to have a personality. Does that answer you? It answered me.
It helps as an actor also.
Imagination.
It's hard working to a tennis ball. You know what I mean? I think you can tell the difference in people's their performances when you're acting to nothing and then you have something real that's moving in front of you. I think there's a big difference.
Oh, absolutely.
How did you build the original Falcor, and how did you shoot with him? Like when the kid is riding on him?
Oh, they had some of the. I know they had some of Jim Henson's people work on Falcor. So basically, they had two They had a neck and a head, which we used for like the flying sequences. They had a forklift motor attached to the back, which would overheat every 5 minutes. And the Falcor would start going like this. So all we do is just grab some hair and hold on. And then they had a full size, which they had like 40 people underneath the stage.
Wow.
And then a little monitor so they could see, you know, their lip movements and the eyes and stuff. So they were, yeah, I mean, they were pretty incredible. I mean, they had the rock biter was 7 feet tall. They had a guy in, and it was pretty awesome. I love that stuff. It just has
I
such a...
didn't know Henson had done that.
Not him, but his people
Yes,
did.
people,
Yeah.
yeah.
How you guys doing?
Cool. How you doing? We're good. Thank you for asking.
I watched the movies like a lot when I was a kid, and they completely freaked me out. Like some parts like gave me nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
For you,
I bet.
what would you think would be like the most on the edge of appropriate for children?
In NeverEnding Story?
Yeah.
Well, the horse dying's pretty rough. Dying. Yeah. And the Gamorg was pretty, that was pretty scary.
I couldn't handle that.
Yeah, they made it super bloody too, because when I stab him, I mean, there's blood pouring out, and, oh yeah.
I did that too. I did. What? I'm sorry, what'd she say?
I had nightmares about you.
Yeah, the Gamorg.
I apologize. Not really, but
Speaking of freaking out kids, you were a kid when you were filming. I think that the voice wasn't there when you were shooting with these puppets or whatever. So you get freaked out by that wolf.
Well, they had certain voiceover stuff for characters. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who did what at the time, because I think Alan came in afterward to do all the voice. But they had voices going on. But yeah, the Gamorg was pretty. He was pretty scary, and they knocked me clean out because they had him on a compressed air rig when he shot out of the hole at me, and knocked me cold, laid me out, and I was out good cold for about 5 minutes. Oh yeah, laid me. They were like, at least there was too much pressure in the suit. Clean Charlie Brown off my feet. That's what I say. They were trying to kill me weekly.
Was it difficult to figure out how to portray the nothing and the nothing advancing, and to react to the coming of nothing?
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's kind of like Buddhism and nothingness. This is kind of a weird concept to, yeah. No, they're throwing rocks at me, and there's big 6-foot fans that they're blowing at you. So you have stuff to kind of react to, and they make big clapping noises so you could react to stuff. But I don't know. I think when you're 12, most 12-year-olds don't have a whole lot of like technique. So it's at that point it's all about imagination, I think. So you have a good imagination, you can do a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of the moral of the movie too in itself. Yeah.
First off, the Sphinx and the Southern Oracle. First off, how was that done, and was that a enjoyable scene for you to be?
Big boobs. They were so big that they couldn't fit the top part of the head in the soundstage, so it was just big boobs. There was no head, so yeah, it was funny. I was 12, and it was just big boobs and big boobs.
He was dodging what was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was just me running and jumping. They had laid out a dolly track, and they had maybe 6 or 7 guys pushing as fast as they could, trying to keep up with me, and little dive, and we were, good to go. But yeah, it was kind of funny at that point in my life, kind of just looking up and.
And hearing the big boobs talk to you.
Yeah, because they would have people, doing the voices or whatnot, or Wolfgang would be off to the side of the camera screaming at me, and you're just reacting to big boobs. Huh? Yeah.
Sure, I'll get on that. Yeah.
It's funny.
Glad to be with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna be asking a lot.
No, please. Ask away.
I know you did all of this stunt work and stuff, but question that's been plaguing me for years is, how did your hair always stay so perfect?
I've been brushed to shit. That was the one thing, is I was always dirty. I was always muddy. So they have to have continuity, so you're always in the shower. I must have, during at least the swamps, I must have showered 9 times a day. It was just terrible. So they had to match everything, so you'd shower, blow dry your hair, comb your hair, yeah. But that's pretty much, for years, my hair was just long. So I wish I had it still. But you want to? Okay. We'll get to you next.
I just want to say, Alan, that I had no idea until a couple days ago that you did the Mork and the rock fighter and the narrator. I just knew you did
But
Falcor.
he didn't know either.
I just It's absolutely incredible. I would never have, oh, that sounds the same. No, it did not. It's brought me
know that
part of
either.
my life. It's amazing and such a big part of my childhood. Thank you so much.
I was halfway out the door when he said, "Oh, would you do this wrap-up narrator?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And then, like you, somebody said to me a year ago, "Aren't you the narrator?" I said, "I don't remember doing that." And then I heard it. I said, "Yeah." I was underpaid.
You had a
Well,
question.
we have to ask you, what's the princess's name?
Moonchild.
Read the book.
It's a good hippie name. Well, Space Princess, yeah. You think? I think
Thanks.
Moonchild. Yeah.
It made more sense to me.
Yeah, I think the way they did it was you kind of could put your own thing there. Do you know what I mean? Like they had the thunder and you couldn't really hear, but I know with the subtitles, some not on all of them, but on some DVDs, if you put the subtitles on, it'll say it screams out Moonchild, and then sometimes it says screams out ineligible or whatever it says. You know what I mean?
No, it's pretty easy. I mean, you're supposed to watch it on VHS like it's an actual station.
Do you still own a VHS? I do.
It's actually TV.
That's awesome.
Such a question there.
Did you read the book?
She wanted to know, did we read the book before?
No.
I did. The book is amazing. Yeah, the book was great. That's kind of what got me to really want to do the movie. Was if they could get anywhere near what the book was, they had something good.
Sometimes that can get in the way. They give you a screenplay and it's an adaptation or an interpretation. And if you read the book, original material, you see it differently, and it's hard maybe to reconcile the two because you're doing the screenplay, you're not doing the book. So that can get in the way. Obviously it didn't for you, but I think it might have gotten in my way. I'm glad I didn't even know about it. Hand back there.
Yeah, on that question, how close would you have considered the screenplay for the movie to the original book? Or it's actually, I should say, the first half of the book.
Not. Kind of. I mean, they got some stuff right. Thank God I wasn't green. That's all I had to say. Because they tested me, they made me green, and it sucked. And I don't think it looked. I don't think it filmed. It looked good, as good on film as they thought it would. You know what I mean? Having the green dude running around. But yeah, they made me green for a whole damn day. I was bright green.
Why? Why?
He was purple buffalo and shit. He was green, Buffalo was purple. I didn't write the book. So yeah, but just thank God I wasn't green for a year.
First, I have to say I'm kind of, my heart is pounding out of my chest because this is just such a surreal moment for me. So you can be in the same room. But if you were approached with a script that you really believed in for a reboot, would you consider coming back as a cameo or another character?
It would have to depend on who was doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was somebody that I had a lot of respect for, I'd consider it. But if, it would have to be somebody that I really dug their film work, like, hey, like if Fincher had done it, or if Guillermo del Toro, cool, I'm cool with doing something. But if it was, you know what I mean? If it was some crap director or some crap.
Hottest Bastion's dad ever.
Huh?
Hottest Bastion's dad ever.
That's what I was thought. It was funny. I go, I just grow my beard out. It's all gray. I could play someone's dad now. But thank you.
On that same question, who are some of those directors that you do have that respect for?
Oh God, like Fincher, Guillermo. I mean, I'm an old school. I like old school movies. Like, I'm a Apocalypse Now era type of guy. Like between the '60s and mid '80s. That's like my era of film. I just think it's the best era, the best time for movies. As most original stuff came out.
Exactly.
Not that I don't like Marvel movies, or I grew up with all that stuff too. But there was something innovative about that time period where nothing had been done before. There was a lot of new material. Kind of everything has already been done. Now they're doing the whole comic book thing, which is fine, which is great. It's just, I think people's kind of creativity in Hollywood went out the window a little bit. People are just regurgitating the same stuff.
I agree.
Francis Ford Coppola even, his last thing is horrid. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, someone like Francis Ford Coppola, if he's on his game, hell, I'd love to work with someone like that. But, they'd have to be, a Marty Scorsese or, someone like that. Those guys I'd take work. Come and ask one.
I have a pair of questions. The first is kind of a technical one. How did they film Swamp of Sadness, like effects-wise and your reaction-wise? How was that set up?
Ooh, well, the soundstage at the time was, I think, the biggest in Europe. Maybe at the time the world. It was and they filled it from one end to the other with mud and trees. It was literally 6-foot mud from one side to the other. It was ridiculous, the undertaking that they did, and they had to clean it all out too. So using the same soundstage. So it was just a lot.
So it was just like angles for the horse, or how did they?
They had an elevator that they had basically dug a moat, and they had an elevator that just slowly went down until about here, and then they cut, and then they had some dude underwater with a hose with some bubbles. I mean, because people will come up and go, just tell me that horse didn't die. And I go, they take better care of the horse than they do the actors. They do. They take, the animals take better care than the actors. It's crazy.
And then part two was, you see so many childhood actors kind of go astray. What kept you from going that path exactly? Is there anything different that you think?
Yeah, I didn't want to be a piece of shit. Part of it, and I mean, I worked my first 20 years of my life pretty much, and then in my early 20s, I was just over it. I had worked my butt off, and I just wanted to go be like a person for a while, and that's what I did, and I think that was really important for me. And I went to school with all those idiots, I mean, I went to a college prep school. I lasted one semester because it was every child star you could ever think of. Like, it was just so weird to go to school with both Corys and, you know, and the kids from Charles in Charge, and you're just, it was just, you know, and everybody was wasted. And I lasted one semester. I was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. You know, it is what it is. I mean, when everything's handed to you on a plate and nobody tells you no, some people, you know, can't deal with that, and they just kind of lose their path. But for me, it was always, I always felt more about myself than some of these people. You know, I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to be a piece of, you know. Yeah, I mean, not that I've never partied and I haven't done my little thing. I'm not an angel, far from it. But, do you know what I mean? I think you have to have that kind of sense of self in order not to fall into that, you know, that path that so many of them do. But you have the great ones like, man, I mean, you have the ones that go to Harvard, and, you know, you do have some ones that make it, that do, you know, go to school and don't get all, you know, strung out on drugs. But it's rare.
Hi. Yes, could you do the scene from the Rocketeer where they look like strong hands?
Oh. That's my favorite too. Rock, but
They look like shit.
oh, you can do that.
I don't know the dialogue.
They look like strong hands?
They look like big, strong hands.
I always thought that's what they were.
I can't do that.
They look like big, strong hands. A little bit different than Skeletor, isn't it?
That's funny.
Sorry, on the subject of that, what's your favorite lines from the movie?
From this movie?
Yeah, from the movie.
Well, there's two. There's one, you reach behind and scratch my ear. And the other one is when we're, at the very end, when he's riding me and we're chasing those kids and back into the trash bin.
I'm crying. Is my face red? Funny. Just hearing you do that was awesome.
I haven't done it in 30 years.
I didn't think I have a favorite line, to be honest with you. Yeah, I didn't have one. I wish I could say like, yeah. Definitely wasn't, you know, fight against the swamps.
Wow.
Question back there?
Yes, I've got two things to say. First of all, when I first got my cat, he was the tiniest, scared little thing. And the only thing that would make him come out from under the bed was that movie. It is his favorite movie in the world. My cat loves the NeverEnding Story.
That's really cute.
I have no clue why, but I put it on and he goes, yeah, we're watching the NeverEnding Story.
That's really cute.
And my second question is, how would you go about explaining this movie to someone to try to get them to watch it, like my mom? She's like my mom. She's not into this fantasy stuff. She's like, well, and I'm trying to explain it to her, but I'm like not trying to give anything really major away.
Put it in.
Just put it in.
Just have something to show you. Sit down and watch. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm just like, oh, you know, this is, and I'm like, I'm not telling you about the horse, Mom.
Yeah, just sit her down and have her watch it. I think that's the easiest way to go about it.
Yes, ma'am.
My question's for both of you, actually. And obviously, having the two of you in the same room, there's going to be a lot of talk about the NeverEnding Story. But do each of you consider the NeverEnding Story to be like your signature project, or is there something else that each of you considers to be your greatest accomplishment thus far?
No, I would not say signature or greatest accomplishment. I think it's a fantastic movie, an important movie, and I love doing it. And I saw it again recently after many years, and I had an even deeper appreciation of it. But I would not call it my signature movie, no. Maybe an episode of Hogan's Heroes might be. Seriously, I really can't answer that question. No.
Yeah, I guess that's what everybody knows me for the most. With my little white boy haircut. Generic white boy bowl dude. Yeah, I had fun doing Sushi Girl, the last one, because I got to work with crazy Mark Hamill, and they beat the shit out of me for a month. It was crazy and fun, and yeah, that was fun. That was fun, but I don't have like a, I guess the NeverEnding story is probably what everybody knows me
Question
most.
way back there.
What's up, brother?
You guys saw the movie recently. Is it weird watching yourself on screen?
No, I find it easier to watch myself after time goes by. I can't watch something that I've just done. I want to crawl into a hole. Because I see, oh, I should have done that, I should have done this. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, I was on a plane last year, and I couldn't walk out on myself, obviously, but they were showing a Richard Pryor movie that I did called Moving.
Oh.
And yeah, and I was sitting there with my wife, and I said, oh God, I am so terrible in this movie. And how am I going to walk out? We're at 30,000 feet. Well, I saw it after, whatever, 5-10 years, and I thought, geez, I'm pretty funny in this. So if I watch it right after I do it, I hate it, anything. But as time goes by, I don't know whether I mellow or I just look at it more objectively, I think, yeah.
Oh, you want me to answer that one too? Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I've seen the NeverEnding story 3 times. So I'll watch something and I'll look at it and I go, oh God, I hated that scene. I should have done this, this, this. And then I change it, you know? The next time I have a scene or do something, I have those changes that I can make, and that's kind of the only time I ever really watch what I do, once or twice. And yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm just hypercritical.
Are you talking about dailies?
They don't do them anymore. I wish they did. Dailies were awesome.
Well, I got to stop you on that one, because when I was doing a Bonanza or whatever at that time, and I went to dailies, and the director forbade me to come back. And the reason is because if you see something that you hate, it destroys your performance in the rest of the film. And if you see something you like, you keep repeating that same stupid approach in every scene. So
that's why a lot of directors didn't let their actors go to dailies.
Exactly, he wouldn't let me back. Now, you all know Ethel Barrymore, the great actress, Ethel Barrymore. Somebody asked her, well, what did you think of yourself? Did you see a movie? She said, I could never watch myself on stage. Why should I watch myself in a movie?
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Can you please say my favorite Falcor lines, never give up and good luck will find you? I want to get that in a Falcor tattoo on me at some point.
You sure it's Falcor, not the rock fighter? Never give up, and good luck will find you. Is that it? I don't really, it's hard for me out of context to try and do the voice. But
It's more like a wise saying that you're talking
yeah,
straight.
never give up, and good luck will find you. I don't know.
Have you done any work with or met up with any of the other cast members ever /? Would you like to? Is there a reunion planned?
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to do some kind of, I'm not all into that type of stuff really, you know what I mean? I go to my office, I write, I come home, you know what I mean? My dogs go to the office with me. I'm so busy that I got stuff that I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't really give a shit. To be honest, you know, you're just trying to be honest. I haven't seen Barrett since we did the movie, or Tammy, so either of them in 30 years. So, you know, maybe I'm weird that way.
Not like high school.
Exactly. You know, I didn't go to my high school reunion either. So, yeah, it's depressing, right? Yeah.
So I think you both realize how important the NeverEnding Story is as pop culture to all of us.
Absolutely.
But I wonder if each of you gentlemen could tell us if there's a film in pop, something of pop culture that is important to you.
Well, I think, and Noah touched on it earlier, the films, there's so many great films from the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, I'll watch any Humphrey Bogart movie. There's so many people. I can just, of that era, the good movies, there were a lot of B pictures made that became A pictures, but there were a lot of B pictures that became D pictures too. So the pictures that have lasted that you see on Turner Classic or whatever, yeah, yeah. That was supposed to be a throwaway movie, you know. No, of course not. No. Those are great films. And I did see The Jersey Boys last week. I recommend it.
It's supposed to be amazing.
And I did see Chef, if you haven't seen that, and I recommend that. But good movies are few and far between. But they were then too. You know, we're only seeing the best of that era. So, yeah, if you, yeah.
I like, man, I have weird taste in movies and pop culture. Like Bugsy Malone is like one of my, and I don't even know, most people won't know that, but it was Jodie Foster and Scott Baio, and it was a mob movie, but all kids. And instead of Tommy guns, they shot Tommy guns actually shot cake at each other, and it was like a musical. And it was one of my all-time favorite. I know, from like Apocalypse Now to like, you know, that's like.
It's eclectic.
Yeah, I have really, and recently the movies that are coming out of Korea are fucking amazing. Are some of the best movies I've seen. There's a couple thriller, like Old Boy, the original.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody hack a movie like Spike Lee hacked Old Boy. Oh my God, it was horrible. But yeah, the movies that are coming out of Korea right now are spectacular. I Saw the Devil is a thriller that's one of the best looking, scariest thrillers I've ever seen. I mean, it's like Dressed to Kill style. Like you could tell he's a very big Hitchcock fan. A lot of these Korean directors. But yeah, like Bugsy Malone and Grease, and then but then I'm a huge horror freak anyway. So all the Friday the 13th, and I mean, I just remember sneaking into the midnight showings when I was growing up, and just packed houses of screaming kids, and like I love that stuff. I wish it was like that these days, Going to movies back in the day was awesome, about 25 years ago, Yeah. That's kind of where.
Since she asked about pop culture, excuse me. Since she asked about pop culture, you have a Star Wars shirt on.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to do a Battlestar Galactica convention last year, so I bought this shirt and wore it to the Battlestar convention just to be a dick. It's a better movie. I mean, I love Battlestar Galactica, but yeah, I just think Star Wars is a better movie.
I have that shirt.
Target rocks, man. I got this thing at Target. That's funny.
Actually, on that note about Battlestar Galactica, which do you prefer, male Starbuck or female Starbuck?
As a person or a character?
Character.
I like the female Starbuck. I like that they made her like like a man eater, and because the original Starbuck was like a womanizer and a drunk and a smoker, and so they just flipped it and turned made her a woman, made his character a woman. I liked it. I thought it worked really well.
Equal time.
Yeah, equal opportunity. It's awesome.
I wanted to know, because you were in a film that was part of kind of a trend going on in the 80s where there were fantasy films happening. I want to know if you guys had an opinion about the current fantasy genre happening in film right now. That's sort of like hyper CGI insanity happening on screen, and what if you thought it's not as good as the trend you were a part of.
I think it depends what movie too we're talking about, because like I'm gonna be cheesy, but I like Pacific Rim.
Oh, I love that.
It brought out my 7-year-old.
I was thinking more
I mean?
like Maleficent, or like
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
yeah, or like Snow White and the Huntsman, like these dark fantasy movies.
Not my style of movie really.
I think they ruin a lot of movies. They just throw as much CGI in it as they possibly can nowadays. And I know the trend is kind of trying to go back the other way.
Yeah.
And use it the way it was supposed to be, sparingly, you know? And which, thank God, because if I have to watch one more full CGI movie, I'm going to shoot myself.
I don't understand why they just don't call it an anime.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Completely agree. He-Man in the back.
You touched a little bit earlier on, getting a little a lot of us fans, I know we certainly get very much so, but do you ever watch a movie and just find yourself getting really nitpicky? Just like, this is wrong, that
all
kind
the
of
time.
thing.
All the time. You watch movies and go, oh, they fucked that up. Or, like, I look for mics. I see mics hanging, and I bust people for stuff. I love that, though. I love busting bad continuity. And, some of the biggest directors in the world, people screw stuff up, I think every movie you can find something where something didn't match, or a wardrobe problem, or
well, that's the script supervisor's problem.
I like nitpicking though. I like finding flaws in movies that I like.
But if I'm involved in a movie, I don't see the flaws.
Right.
If I'm involved in what's going on, I'm there. And then maybe later on I say, oh, geez, somebody walked across the set at the back. Usually, that's pretty glaring. It's hard to miss that. But those little things, I don't spot it until later, because I really am involved. If it's a good movie, I'm involved in the moment.
I pick out all the crap. I don't care how good it is. It's one of my pet peeves.
Obviously, he's a very shallow man.
I'm one of those guys. I go, oh, they f***ed that up. Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's the struggling director in me, maybe. I don't know.
How did the drag feel physically? Like, was it soft?
It was weird. I mean, you could feel that there was like an animatronic skeleton, but it had a layer of foam around it, and it had feathers and fur. So it was kind of foamy and fluffy, but you could still feel like it had stuff to keep it. It just wasn't like a stuffed animal.
You talking Falcor?
Yeah.
Here, take a feel. Yes, Miss Purple. Go
So
ahead.
you went in with the idea that you're going to be doing only Falcor, but you ended up doing a lot more with the film. So how did you?
I did my voice too.
How long did it take for you to develop those voices? Like, you just see a clip of the rock fighter and go, oh, I'm going to do this, or did it take 5 or 6 hours to develop?
No, it didn't take. It took 5 or 6 minutes, if that. It's like, I've done a lot of cartoons, and I very often am asked, well, how'd you come up with a voice for that? Well, there's a storyboard, number one, and number two, there's a picture. There's a cell that shows what the director and the animator's idea is. From that, you have to use your imagination. And you may not hit on it the first time. You may, and they say, that's fine. You say, play it back. You say, no, that's not right, like I did with Falcor. So it's a combination of what the picture is and your imagination. And what was your question originally?
Basically, how long it took and like how you got there.
Well, I think a good example is the rock. Falcor came to me immediately when I auditioned for it. But the rock biter, he surprised me, when I was in Munich. He said, oh, can you do this? And I saw this character, and I saw the scene before and after where he's going. Well, it has to be a part of a whole. You can't be a violent, ugly, mean rock biter. It's the wrong approach to the material. So you just come up with a voice and then you say, well, no, wait a minute, let me go this way. Play it back. A lot of people sometimes say, well, I want to do voiceovers. How do I do that? And I say, get a piece of copy, get a microphone, and record it on your computer or whatever, and play it back. And listen to it, and you will say, oh, that's not exactly what I'm going to do. Keep doing it, and by maybe the 5th or 6th time you come closer, and you'll feel freer to what it is you created. But you have to hear yourself with the material and visualize. Visualization, imagination is the most important part of acting, especially voice acting. That's why a lot of screen actors can't do voiceovers, because they are used to being a presence. Well, it's got nothing to do with that. You want to do voice work, you've got to use your imagination and create. I'm not going to say method, because that's something else again, but you are creating from the ground up. You agree?
Absolutely. Huh? I did. I did voice work growing up for 20 years until my voice changed. Well, we were talking about this on the plane. He can work from home in his underwear. I was like, I'll take that job, That's awesome. I want to sit at home and hang out in my drawers and work and turn out some work. Yeah, that sounds like No, I mean, I like all the whole creative process. I like being in front of the camera. I feel really comfortable there. It's nice to go into a booth and not have to worry about your hair or whether you took a shower or whatever. You could just go and do your thing, Yeah, so, but I like the entire creative process, I have 4 or 5 screenplays that I've written recently that we're producing, and so I'm not kind of acting as much. I'm doing a lot of writing, so.
Let me just add something here. When you do a cartoon, for instance, some people say, well, did you do that voice separately, or was the whole cast? Sometimes it's separate of necessity, somebody's out of town. But if the cast is there and you're working with somebody, yeah, it's give and take. It's really answering, That's when it's the best.
Well, I mean, that's a big part of what acting is, anyways,
That's right.
is listening.
Listening.
If you don't really hear what that person is saying, how do you react properly?
Absolutely.
It's one thing just to learn your lines, but if you don't listen to what's coming beforehand, well, not.
Did you guys know there was a NeverEnding story cartoon? Like, do you guys get approached for anything? Like, hey, you did Atreyu, you did Falcor, can you do it for this one?
No.
The cartoon was pretty good, though.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Not even a college humor video?
went by, huh?
Not even like a college humor video, like what Ralph Macchio did?
It's funny. Not so much.
Sorry. What was the process of getting the part of Atreyu and for you, Falcor, and then?
Of getting the part?
Yeah.
After you.
Oh.
Sorry, I know.
Well, they had a different director before they had Wolfgang Peterson. So they saw something like 50, 100,000 kids first time around. and I auditioned for like 4 or 5 months, and they hired me. And then they fired the director and started all over again. So I auditioned for like 8 or 9 months, and then got it again. Yeah. Yeah.
I auditioned in a hotel room. in Beverly Hills.
See?
Wolfgang was there, and we talked a little, and then he said, all right, you want to read this? And I said, sure. And I read it. He says, that's fine, I'll see you in Munich.
Busted
But you didn't have to scratch him behind the ear.
Well, actually, I did.
No, he did that on the plane last night.
I actually have a question. How did you actually break into the voice acting business, as far as that part of it goes?
Well, I didn't.
How did you get your start?
I didn't really break it. I mean, I grew up with radio.
Okay.
I'm that old. And I found that, like you all went home in the afternoon and watched cartoons, I would go home and listen to the radio series. And I found that I had a pretty good ear and I could imitate people. And then I forgot all about that. And then when I went to California, it's many years ago, I was doing on-camera commercials in addition to movies and television. And I said, well, I think I'm going to wear out my welcome if I'm doing on-camera commercials this much. So I said to my agent, I want to do voiceovers for commercials. He said, well, you can't do it. You're not right. I said, that's what I want to do. He said, okay, I'll record you for a couple of them and local stuff, not national. We'll see what happens. And I booked a couple of locals, and then they were encouraged and set me up for nationals. And then I began to do a lot of that, and I did that for years. Cartoons. In 1970-something, I was sent out to Hanna-Barbera, and Joe Barbera, great man, boy, great man. And I had torn my leg playing tennis, and I was in a cast. My wife drove me out to Hanna-Barbera. So I met with Joe, and he said, well, this part is a guest. It's a talking dog. Can you do that? I said, I think I can do it. He said, fine. You start next week. So on the way home, my wife said to me, is this what you do for a living? And I've been doing it for a living for a long time. That's awesome. Yes.
Sushi Girl was brought up, so just a really quick question, because I looked and I didn't see any little ones in here.
Oh, yeah, I checked when we came in, because
Oh,
yeah,
good.
I have potty mouth.
That was just great. It was a lot like Hong Kong cinema. I just loved it. How did that come about? How did you get involved with it?
It's funny, because I was living in Amsterdam. I was tattooing in Amsterdam. I just needed to get out of LA, and so yeah, I was living in Amsterdam, and I checked my email at like, oh, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. The producer was like, hey, got a movie with Mark Hamill and a bunch of these guys. Would you consider reading it? I was like, yeah. I read it. Called him an hour later. I was like, oh, I really dig this. Oh, would you like to do it? Absolutely. I was on a plane like 6 hours later.
And you knew you were getting that far, you weren't going to be conflicting at that point in time?
Yeah, no, I pretty much signed up to knowing I was going to get tortured for a month. Yeah. But it was fun the way it all happened, and like how Mark and I like everybody became friends, and like I have barbecue every other week at the house, and funny Mark Hamill comes to the crib for barbecue. You know what I mean? Like it was a really cool experience. You look over and Tony was funny because Tony's like a method actor. Tony Todd, he was in Candyman and Platoon and a million other things. But he's like method. So he would call me every night and threaten me. Literally, he'd be like, I want to know where those diamonds are, boy. And every night he'd call me and threaten me. That was his character. He was like the bad guy. And it was funny. I mean, we become really close friends. But yeah, every night I pick up the phone. and he'd have something else threatening to say to me. So that was fun. We had a good time. Yeah. Yeah, Tony's the nut.
About 5 minutes, so one more question.
Okay. We have one more question.
This is actually for the both of you. What projects are you currently working on that you're excited about that you can look forward to?
I'm not. I'm largely retired. I do some commercial voiceovers, and but I gave up doing theater and movies and television because it's hard work, and I did 65 years. And I told my agent, I said, well, I'll do a play if I die in the first act. I got to be in bed by 9 o'clock. Your turn.
I'm doing a lot of writing. I have a couple feature films I'm producing that I wrote. I have a couple TV shows I'm going to pitch at the end of the month to Netflix and HBO.
Is there anything in it for me?
So, yeah, I mean, basically, God, I think I haven't written anything for myself. So I'm just writing and begging for money. Basically, it's kind of because we're trying to, get financing for the stuff that me and my partner and I've been doing, and yeah. So I literally go to an office every day and I sit and type, and you know what I mean. I bring my dogs to the office, and yeah, I pretty much have been either at the office or my crib for the last 3 months. I haven't even been out of the house. So I'm pitching everything at the end of the month. So I'm trying to get everything ready. And
well, good luck.
Good luck. Good
luck.
Yeah. So we'll see.
If you get rejected, we'll write you letters.
Aw, thanks. No, I'm just positive. I mean, I'm always a pessimist about money and stuff, because that's the most dicey part of it, and that's the one thing you can always be sure on is when you think you have the money, you don't. So, and yeah, nothing's cheap anymore. I mean, they do House of Cards. It takes $8 million an episode. They have a $100 million budget a year for that show. So, yeah. They're not playing. Netflix ain't playing around. So yeah, we're gonna go to Netflix and meetings there at the end of the month, and so it's kind of weird being on completely the other side of the spectrum in this now. So not that I hung up my acting hat. I'm not like focused on that really. Like I don't even have an agent. I'm just writing, and we'll see.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you ever consider acting in something that you yourself wrote?
Yeah. It would have to be it would just have to be the right thing, But like I have somebody that's putting up some money for one of these things who's like, you have to be in it. And I go, I don't want to be in this one. I didn't write anything for it, We keep going back and forth. He's like, well, I want you to be in it. I go, but I'll find somewhere else to take get my money. You know what I mean? So I just think if it was appropriate, I would do that, but I definitely don't write anything with myself in mind. I don't know if most writers do or not, but I definitely don't. So. And scene! On that note, thank you.
So I just tend to just jump in and do it, for whatever that's worth. I always joke around and say instincts are the best steaks. This one, I probably just tried it again. Great part, here we go.
Thing he's holding, it looks sort of like somebody took some tubes and cardboard and put them together.
when they made that movie, to the people in the audience, that looked like a really cool ray gun. You know, sparks came out of it, and we don't know how it worked, and nobody asked.